We are live. We are live. Welcome to College Football's Peek Around the Corner with your host, Greg Flugar. We cover everything in college football because we love everything in college football. And if you do us well, please subscribe to our channel. Smash the like button if you like our content. Share the video with your family and friends. If you want to support this rebel outpost, if you want to support the true home for the college football sickos, to help us keep the lights on, hit that $sign where you make a comment, and I'll get you a super chat as quick as I possibly can. Welcome everybody into the studio that sits on the corner, the very corner of Keith Jackson Parkway and Kurt Gowdy Avenue. Do not be afraid. Do not be afraid to become a legend with your comments and with your phone calls. Breaking news, breaking news, breaking news. Breaking news. Just before we came on live, we're going to be going through it in the back end of our monologue. The House lawyers, the plaintiffs. By the way, I got a couple of questions. Number one, are we sure that a CBA would be better for the student athletes than the pressure that the House lawyers can continually put on the autonomy for conferences, their schools, and the NCAA? Are we sure that this ain't the best deal for labor? I'm wondering. I think it might be. Put that aside. Put that aside. Number two, I think this is a really good example of the House lawyers, this class action lawsuit, even though it is not a perfect way to somehow create a balance, a bargain between labor and ownership, this is a good example of how they do have the hammer. We've talked about this. The House lawyers have the hammer. And they can go to the judge and they can say, look, it ain't working. It ain't working. It ain't working because NCAA is not abiding by the class action lawsuit. Hey, judge, it isn't working because the Autonomy 4 schools, they're not abiding by the rules at all. Hey, judge, they can do this. And then they can rip up the agreement. And my God, if you think we are screwed now, it's going to be unbelievably bad if this doesn't work by hook or by crook. Now, the breaking news is the House lawyers have slammed the Autonomy 4 conferences and the power conferences, the Autonomy 4 and Washington State and Oregon State and the NCAA because of the ruling, the rules that the College Sports Commission was laying down yesterday, and I kind of liked it, but it ain't going to fly. The College Sports Commission was denying NIL deals when the collectives were acting like the business being promoted. In other words, the collectives could not pay the player directly as a promotion to the collective. Well, first of all, I did not know. I don't think anybody knew that the collectives were a for-profit business. Sounds like they are now, right? But again, the House lawyers have the power. They have the power. So this is it. The collectives have to be treated as a business, a for-profit business, and they can pay the player for the promotion of the collective. Now, the next step in this, the Sports Commission has to follow what the lawyers, they're all incommunicado, they're all communicating, right? They're back, they're talking, the lawyers and everything. It looks like this is going to be the rule, okay? This is a good example. This is going to be working through the process, making sure everything is kosher with the House lawyers, making sure everybody's going by the rules. Okay, that's number one. Number two, the application of what the House lawyers are saying. The Sports Commission, Deloitte Clearinghouse, especially Deloitte Clearinghouse is going to have to treat the collectives as a business for profit, and deals, payments directly from the collective and the players are going to have to be allowed. The question is, the big question now is, what's the compensation range? Because if this is just the collectives gathering a boatload of money and shoving it towards a player, and it doesn't have to, it's back to the old inducement through a collective, a big old money laundering where the agent, you see, this would not work in any sports league at all. It wouldn't work with any minor leagues football league that you all want, all you millionaires in the chat room, all you millionaires, you Einsteins in the chat room, if you got together and you created a minor league sports football for 18 to 21-year-old, you wouldn't be able to have this either. So, we're not there yet though, right? We're not there yet. I mean, collectives now can pay the players directly to promote, to use the player's name, image, and likeness to help the collective out. The next step is to see what type of compensation range that these payments, because if it's just doors wide open, none of this is going to work anyways, once again. But we're not there yet. We're not there yet. Maybe the Deloitte Clearinghouse is going to deny some collective deals and some deny and let some go through. And then those complaints are going to go to the House lawyers and they're going to look at it and they're going to make the determination. Because really the power is with the plaintiffs, the lawyers. Because everybody's got to abide by this. If not, well, you're not going to have to worry about a whole lot of things because the back pay penalty on each of these schools is going to be so large. You can forget about a lot of things. So, again, Deloitte Clearinghouse, in conjunction with the Sports Commission, because they're the ones that are putting out the rules, they're going to have to adopt to what the House lawyers said today. And they will, because they got to. And everybody's got to play by the rules. All right. So that is the big breaking news off the field. Big breaking news on July 7th. We got some other stuff to go through. Ryan Willie, Greg, are you going to watch the Big Freaking Friday show tonight? I have my popcorn ready. I am going to be having a date night with the little general. So I won't be able to watch it. I guess they're going to be, I don't know, what are they going to be doing again? They're going to be drinking what? Bourbon? Whiskey? I don't even know what's going on. Thunderbird? Are they going to be drinking Thunderbird? I got to clean up here. Let me know. There are rules, Lee. There are rules. There definitely is. Of course there is. The House, the settlement made the rules. There are rules. Now, the rules just changed. The perception of the rules, the Deloitte Clearinghouse, they're going to change it. One step after the next. One step, Blueberry Mad Dog. Mad Dog, Blue Raz. Okay, I'm not going to watch it. I don't think I am going to watch it. I got a date night with the little general. By the way, thank you so much, Ron Willie. I do appreciate the super chat. Thank you for starting us off today on a Friday, July 11th. I appreciate all your support. Very much thankful. Now, Ryan Willie, you're probably not going to be happy with me today. I don't think anybody has been happy with me all week. But I think it's time for the Florida Gators and the Nebraska Cornhuskers to rise again. I think they are on the precipice to rise again. Nebraska rising again is not good news for my beloved Minnesota Golden Gophers. Not good news for the Iowa Hawkeyes. Not good news for the evil Wisconsin Badgers. Now, here's the thing. Every single offseason, everybody in Lincoln, Nebraska, in the state of Nebraska, and Cornhuskers fans throughout the country, They get a lot of optimism running through their blood. They win a lot of off-season awards during the season, only to be disappointed again. I've had fun. I've thrown elbows at the Cornhusker fan base. But this year, I think they're on something. I think they're on to something, not on something. Last year, I had Nebraska going 8-4. I said many, many times, I said they're not going 7-5. They're not going 9-3. They're going 8-4. They went 6-6. Nebraska went 6-6.
I know you told your friend you're not okay. And tell me what's
but
wrong.
Greg the Cold
Never said you
is
felt
not
that
going to
way.
make an appearance
Guess you're trying to stay
this year
strong
in
and fake a smile until
2025.
I look away.
I was off on
But
Nebraska
too
last
long,
year.
it hurts
I'm
to
not going to
watch
be
your
off on
blue eyes
Nebraska
fade
this
to
year.
gray.
Book
As you
it.
fade
No more
away.
Greg the Cold.
As you fade away.
Yeah, I'm about to fade away. Cause every time I wake up I feel like it's Monday. Something's going wrong with all the chemicals up in my brain. All of a sudden I don't look at anything the same way. Got a buildup of my thoughts sitting in an ashtray. I'm sorry that I'm so inconvenient, okay. Just let me be me and I'll stay out of your way. I can see the way you look at me, you're such a disgrace. I never really asked to be brought into this place. You wanna love me? Well then baby I have a taste. All the highs and the lows, no you'll never be the same. I don't really wanna hurt you, but I can't control the pain. If you're sticking by my...
So, anyways, Nebraska Cornhuskers are definitely going 8-4 or 9-3 in 2025. And then they're probably going to take off after that. So buckle up, brace for impact. Now, we do not have a spotlight on Nebraska today. We're going to have a spotlight on Nebraska this weekend. Today, we've got a spotlight on the Florida Gators. And I am very optimistic about the Florida Gators. Right now, I've got them number 5 in the SEC. And I think they're closing in on number 4. Really, look, besides Texas, besides LSU, and besides Georgia, that 4th spot is wide open. South Carolina, Florida, Missouri, Alabama. I don't have Alabama written in number 4. I think the Gators, they've got another brutal schedule. We're going to go through it. But the Gators have got something going this year. And I know, it's Greg the Cold all over again. It ain't. It ain't Greg the Cold. It's Greg the Gold. So we're going to talk about Nebraska a little bit. But the spotlight today is on Florida. And then we're going to do a spotlight show, a spotlight on Nebraska. We've got a lot to get to today. I want to thank everybody for joining us. Let's do a quick roll call. It is July 11th. We are getting closer and closer and closer and closer to the college football season. April 23rd, Dublin, Ireland, Iowa State, Kansas State, Farmageddon. Can't wait. Richard L. is in the house. Bo Weevil is here. Al Woody is here. Don Scruggs is here. Tom Debate. MBM is in the house. Morris Simmons, Florida Seminoles. We got a little bit of this came out yesterday about Florida State University, and I did not see it. Shame on me, shame on me. Thank you to the PATC family. Somebody in the family sent it to me on a DM. I think it's very important news. Very positive news for the university. We are going to get to that. John Boxleitner is in the house. Rob Allen. Legway is a machine, and Napier has Clemson and upstate South Carolina firm in ties. I hope the Gators have a good year. I think they are. I think they're going to pull one upset, possibly two upsets during the season. Greg the Gold, I think they're going to cover a lot of their games. I think they're going to be undervalued. I think the Florida Gators are going to be massively undervalued. Listen to me, guys. Listen to me, gals. This is it. Coy's in the house. Humble Bumble Duck is here. Breeze in Georgia. Cranky Tiger, Ryan Willie, AMAC, 55 Rock is in the house. Benjamin Griffin is here. Jeff Morgan, PATC Sickles. Kenneth Stromness is in the house. John Uzi is here. The entire house settlement might get thrown out because of issues like Title IX. Yeah, it could be thrown out like a lot of issues. But until then, you got to follow the rules. And the rules are going to be calibrated. This ain't going to be the last time the rules get calibrated. It ain't. It ain't going to work all smooth right away. It's going to take time. Until this absolutely gets destroyed by the courts or it gets codified one way or the other, until then, the rules are being set, and every school that is represented in the PATC family, every Power 4 conference school signed on the dotted line. You agreed to it. So buckle up. Buckle up. Big Lubbock is in the house. Tom DeBay is in the house. Boston 49 is here. Lee is in the house. Stormy Cyclone is here. Little Knives. Daniel Gygax. I think he might be involved. It's Mad Dog, Blue Raspberry. It's going to be awful. Whoa. Daniel Gygax, I will pray for you. I will pray for Moen, even though he's a Buckeye. I will pray for both of you. I don't know who else is involved. Let me know in the chat. Let me know in the chat. Jose is in the house. 1MG Alpha, I don't know what the hell that is. Florida's rock? No. I disagree. Florida's roster is worse than last year. And they have a quarterback who had something like 12 TDs and 9. He was a true freshman last year. Or he was a freshman. I think he's a whatever. It was his first year starter. Wasn't he freshman All-American last year? It was between him and Dylan Raiola. We're going to talk about it. Boy, you guys have high expectations. Throwing elbows like that. My goodness. I like the Gators roster. We're going to be going over it. Rod Nix is in the house. Nerf is here. Briggs is in the house. We don't need Nebraska to rise again. The Big Ten loves them right where they are. Look, I hope the Gophers beat them again this year for the 6th time in a row, but I gotta call the balls and strikes the way I see them. I've gotta push all my biases away, which is really difficult to do as a Golden Gopher, especially. We're going to go through the Nebraska. We're going to have a Nebraska spotlight this weekend, but they've got more than a couple of things going for them this year. The one thing they don't have, they got a couple of things, but the one, they don't have Tony White as a defensive coordinator. That makes me a little nervous for the Cornhuskers, because Tony White was incredibly effective in a very short period of time. That 3-3-5 defense the players learned that, and it caused some problems for the opponents. Now he's taken that to Tallahassee. But other than that, Nebraska, in my opinion, got a lot of things going for them. Daniel Gygax, thank you, Greg Numbskull. I pray for you, Numbskull. Moen, I'll give you a half a prayer. Becky, I'll give you a full prayer. Wild Jute, I will give you a full prayer. Daniel Gygax, of course, I'll give you a full prayer. Prayer to get through it. To get through it. MBM, if I lived in Gator country, I'd wear nothing but Gator skin. Okay. Alrighty, let's get to it. Let's get to it. A lot of talk, Florida Gator talk. Well, why don't we start with the Florida Gators? DJ Legway, he's got some support in the chat room, and he's got some naysayers in the chat room. DJ Legway, almost 2,000 yards passing, 12 TDs, 9 interceptions, 59.9 completion percentage, which is really good for a freshman, 154.9 quarterback rating, really good for a freshman. Now he's had some shoulder problems. He's had some shoulder problems, right? I think he had a surgery, correct? So, but it sounds like he is going to be ready to go. Now, the question, now he's got to make another step up. I mean, again, 12-9 ratio TD interception. That ain't going to get it done. But this kid has got a lot of skill. And if he takes another step up, oh, he should have had surgery, but did not. Thank you. But I do like the surrounding pieces around DJ Legway. The center, Jack Slaughter, which we're not going to isolate on today's show. We've talked a lot about Jake Slaughter during the offseason. The great center for Florida, first team All-SEC, All-American list. So he's got a great talent, a senior. A senior center in front of him. That's a good thing for DJ Legway. When I go to the SEC teams, when we're doing the spotlight on them, a lot of fantastic wide receivers. Obviously, a lot of fantastic defense alignment. A lot of incredible wide receivers. I don't know, man. I mean, this year, the Southeastern Conference, at least on paper, seems to be a little light in the running back position, to be honest with you. It seems like every team, Tennessee lost their big star. I don't know about Alabama's running back room. Every SEC team we do. Auburn lost their big-time running back. I don't know if there's replacements out there here in 2025. But Florida, I feel a little better. A couple of young guys who really started to shine last year. Jaden Baugh, 673 yards rushing, 5.1 yards per rush, 7 rushing touchdowns, 4 receptions. Right? He started to get lathered up. I think, again, another guy, if he takes another step up, but he's ready to go. He had success last year. And of course, Jacoby Jackson had success last year, 509 yards rushing, 5.4 average per rush. 7 rushing touchdowns, 7 receptions. Now, Jacoby Jackson is a senior. Jaden Baugh is a sophomore. I think this is a dynamic duo that's going to help out second-year quarterback DJ Legway. The Florida Gators wide receiver room, very interesting. Very interesting indeed. Dallas Wilson. We're not going to isolate him on this show today. But during the spring game this spring, he was absolutely phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal. The Florida Gator fans are loving Dallas Wilson. They also got their transfer, that athlete, that big old wide receiver from UCLA, Michael Sturdivant. We've talked about him. He went against the Gophers last year. They got a huge tight end, Hayden Hansen. Massive tight end. He's about 9 feet tall. I don't know how much he weighs. The Gators have got seniors and juniors up the line, but this is the guy, 2024, he scuttled through an injury, a hip injury. 2023 stats. As a freshman, he was your possession receiver, 62 receptions. I think he's going to come back this year, and he is going to be a dog. A dog. A dog for DJ Legway. Now the defense. You know, we talked about LT Overton from Alabama yesterday. Again, he's first team all SEC, and everybody's hyping him up. And again, it's like, okay, all right. But, he hasn't really had any real production. Not like a superstar. Everybody expects it. There's a lot of guys in Alabama that fit the same bill. Not their wide receivers. They got a bunch of dudes on the team, but there's a lot of guys that there's all this expectation, but really no track record to speak of. Again, I'm worried about the running backs. But this guy, Tyreek Sapp, produced last year. And he ain't getting the steam that Mr. Overton is getting in Bama. 20 solo tackles, 47 combination, 13 tackle for losses, 7 sacks. They got Caleb Banks. They got Grayson Howard. They've got a strong safeties, Castell and Thornton. We talked about a couple of months ago when we had an overview of the Florida Gators. I don't know, man. To me, tell me if I'm wrong. Tell me if I'm wrong. It seems to me that the Florida Gators have a truly balanced team going into 2025. I think they're better than they were last year. They're older than they were last year. They're better. I think they're better. If you look at the Gators schedule, again, it's another brutal schedule, especially in the month of September and into early October. Now, the Gators are going to have to beat the Bulls, the South Florida Bulls, right? They're going to have to win that game. They're going to have to win that game. Then they go on the road to LSU. Then they go on the road to play their rival, Miami. And then they come back home to play Texas. And then they're on the road to Texas A&M. That LSU, that Miami, that Texas game. 2 of those are conference games. that's a pretty rough way to go. But, in my opinion, I think they're ready. You go up and down the roster. Up and down the roster. I think they're ready to go. Billy Napier, I think he's got the quarterback. I think he's got the defense. And I think he has an emerging sophomore running back. I think Eugene Wilson is going to come alive. I think Dallas Wilson, who knows? Who knows what he's going to do? He's the big wild card. I think it's time for the Florida Gators to rise again, and I think they will. I think they're going to pull off an upset or two. I am beginning to worry about the Miami Hurricanes, to be honest with you. I'm looking at their schedule. I think they're going to be surpassed by Louisville. And I think it's going to be a Clemson-Louisville conference. I think Miami's just going to miss out on the playoffs once again. In my way too early predictions, I had Miami as the 9th seed in the playoffs. And I'm getting more and more worried about Miami. And I'm becoming more positive about other teams like the Florida Gators. Now, we're not going to do a Nebraska spotlight, but we are going to talk about the Nebraska Cornhuskers because we are going to do a Nebraska Cornhuskers spotlight this weekend. But today, Mitch Sherman from The Athletic, is Nebraska on the verge of a breakthrough? The Cincinnati opener should provide a quick answer. Okay, before we get to this article, that Nebraska-Cincinnati line is sitting at 6.5. It's been sitting at 6.5. Nebraska favored by 6.5. The game's in Kansas City, the Kansas City Classic, they're calling it. It's been sitting at 6.5 for months. It hasn't moved. Now, I anticipate that Nebraska money is going to be piling on, and that line is going to go from 6.5 to 7.5, or to possibly 8 before kickoff. So if you want to go on Nebraska, Greg the Gold is telling you, do it now. Place your wager now at 6.5. But if you want to go with the Cincinnati Bearcats, I would wait. I would practice a little patience because that line is going to go over the 7-point mark. So if you're on Cincinnati, be patient. If you want to go on Nebraska, I would jump on it now because it ain't going to get better than 6.5. It's going to get worse for you. Now, what is Greg the Gold going to do on that? What is Greg the Gold going to do on that game? Well, you're going to have to wait. You're going to have to wait until we make our official picks against the spread for week 1. When Greg the Gold is going to strut on in here and basically go undefeated in week 1. Nebraska on the verge of a breakthrough. Nebraska football won 29 consecutive season opening games from 86 to 214. The Huskers are 4-5 since then, losing each time they open away from Memorial Stadium or against a power conference opponent. Many of the stinky starts, Illinois in 21, Northwestern in 22, and coaching debuts from Scott Frost, Colorado in 2018, and Matt Rule at Minnesota in 23, snuffed months of off-season momentum. Now, though, confidence is swelling internally at Nebraska. The program believes it has progressed and is not so vulnerable to another faceplant. But as Rule's third team pushes toward the newly named Kansas City Classic against Cincinnati at Arrowhead Stadium on August 28th, evidence of an impending breakthrough remains scarce. Has Nebraska made a jump? Its first season opening win against a Power 4 team since 2003 would help signal that it has. Prognosticators are largely predicting that the Thursday night ESPN opener will be a Nebraska victory against the Bearcats. Joe Klatt of Fox Sports listed the Huskers among the 10 teams most likely to make the college football playoff in 2025 for the first time. Nebraska is often in the conversation as a 9 or 10 win contender, not a team in danger of an early stumble. Not a team in danger of an early stumble. The pressure is mounting. The pressure is mounting on Matt Rule and the Cornhuskers. Expectations are going upward. Don't sleep on the Bearcats, though. While Cincinnati is 8-16 in Satterfield's 2 seasons, the Bearcats return a quarterback in Brendan Sorsby. I like Sorsby. You all know I like Sorsby, who threw for 2,800 yards, completing 64% of his passes last season. In Cincy's first 5 games, Sorsby, an Indiana transfer, tossed 10 touchdowns to 1 interception, but he struggled late in the season when his receivers failed to get free on the perimeter. Satterfield said, Big 12 defenses loaded up the box. The Bearcats addressed their issues in the portal by adding 6'5" receiver Jeff Caldwell, who pushed his weight to 214 pounds while maintaining the speed and 11'9" broad jump. Cyrus Allen from Texas A&M, Caleb Goody from Colorado State provide a burst that the Cincinnati Bearcats lacked in 2024. Tight end Joe Royer, we talked about him a couple of months ago. He's a preseason all Big 12 pick. Running back Tawi Waka. You guys, if you watched any watch parties last year, or if you were just watching our shows, you guys know how much I like Mr. Walker. He's a tough running back. Wisconsin is going to miss him. Very tough running back. Cincinnati is going to fall in love with Mr. Walker. Running back Tawi Waka, a transfer from Wisconsin, rushed for 864 yards last season. While the Bearcats have had their ups and downs, Cincinnati beat Big 12 champ Arizona State last year. The Bearcats beat the Sun Devils, but closed the season with 5 consecutive losses. The program is only 4 years removed from a CFP appearance. And as other coaches captured the attention of Nebraska fans this week at the Big 12 Media Days, Cincinnati Scott Satterfield billed his squad as a contender in the wide open conference. And his revamped offense could be a handful for first-year Nebraska defensive coordinator John Butler. Again, Nebraska lost their brilliant defensive coordinator Tony White to the Florida State Seminoles. That's the one question mark I have about Nebraska. We're going to find out. We're going to find out together. We're a much more explosive football team this year, Satterfield said. Satterfield said he noticed an uptick in urgency among the Bearcats this summer because of the name brand opponent in Nebraska. It's a great gauge for our football team, he said. We feel like you've got to be hitting on all cylinders when you start the season against a team like Nebraska. Initially, the matchup was scheduled for Indianapolis, 110 miles from Cincinnati. The programs agreed late last year to move it to Kansas City in a deal that sweetened the financial pot for the Bearcats. Strictly football, and as a coach, I'd rather play at home, Satterfield said. Bring Nebraska to our place, and let's go! So now it'll be like a road game for both teams. Or perhaps not. Regardless, Rule and Nebraska players, including quarterback Dylan Raiola, will have their opportunity at the Big Ten Media Days on July 22 to present a picture of a team on the rise. It is time for Nebraska to rise again. Many of their talking points figure to sound similar to what we heard this week from Cincinnati. They are two programs mired something closer to the same place than the Huskers might comfortably want to admit. But of the two, only Nebraska has a chance to exercise a decade of demons. Because Cincinnati does not have a decade of demons. The last couple of years haven't gone all that good for Cincinnati, but for Nebraska. Nebraska Cornhuskers in the Big Ten Conference, where you play 9 conference games, they've only won more than 3 conference games in a season once in the last 9 years. It is a decade of demons for the Cornhuskers. It's time for Nebraska to rise again. Matt Rule's 3rd year. Dylan Raiola, much like DJ Legway, it's his 2nd year. And I still see people taking shots at DJ Legway and Dylan Raiola. We've seen a little bit of it today in the chat room, and I'm like, my goodness. If my beloved Golden Gophers freshman quarterback Drake Lindsey, if he plays like Raiola played last year and Legway played last year, I am going to be one happy person. The fat guy from Minnesota is going to be very, very happy. These two quarterbacks, they can play. They can absolutely play big-time college football at a very high level. And I think we're going to see it out of both of them. Now, hopefully both quarterbacks stay healthy. Dylan Raiola, he stayed healthy all last year. And that was the best thing for the program in Lincoln. For your quarterback to stay healthy all year, to get all those snaps. That's the best way to get ready for year 2. Dylan Raiola is going to take a big step. He's got some juice at the wide receiver room. He's got a new offensive line. Thank God, because Nebraska's offensive line the last 3 years has not been good. Those guys have moved on. They've got new guys in. A lot of juice in Lincoln this year. And I believe in Gainesville. A lot of you disagree. Again, of course, Georgia, because they've got a bone to pick. Right, Raiola is overrated. We know that Nebraska can't beat Iowa, so that's one loss. Well, Nebraska has not been able to beat Minnesota, and they play Minnesota this year in Minneapolis, so that might be 2 losses, but we shall see. Again, I think this is the year that Nebraska will rise. I might be the only one who thinks that. Big news out of Florida State. Florida State research. The Sunshine Genetics Act positions Florida at the forefront of genomic medicine, harnessing cutting-edge science to transform lives. The act, championed by State Representative Adam Anderson and signed into law by Governor Ron DeSantis, establishes a genetic sequencing pilot program for newborns and creates the Sunshine Genetics Consortium, uniting Florida's top researchers. It also establishes the Florida Institute for Pediatric Rare Diseases at Florida State University, where researchers will develop and advance technology for precision diagnostics and therapies for children affected by rare genetic diseases. Now, this is not just about Florida State. It's about the state of Florida, USF, Florida State, Florida Gainesville. But good news for Florida State. Good news for Florida State. Sources: quarterback Jake Retzlaff is withdrawing from school at BYU. It's official. He still plans on transferring and is expected to take a transfer path that does not involve the NCAA transfer portal. He plans to simply enroll at a new school. So, let me know in the chat room, or let me know at the phone call. Where do you predict Jake Retzlaff is going to end up? Where do you believe he's going to end up? I don't have one school in mind. I don't have one prediction. Not a one. I can't see him going to Tennessee. I can't. I don't know where he's going. I don't even have a prediction. Is he going to Tennessee? He's not going to Minnesota. Unless he wants to be a backup, he's not going to Minnesota. You all are going to learn real early that the Gophers have got themselves a quarterback. John Dry is rooting for the Bearcats. Colorado, no, they got a 2 QB battle going on. Colorado's got Salter. John Dry, so a 6-win Nebraska team. No, I don't think so. I actually think they're going to win more than 3 Big Ten conference games. We are going to, UNLV, interesting. Stormy cyclone. Very interesting. Very interesting. Okay. Let's get into the big breaking news before we came on live, and then we'll get to your phone calls. House attorneys slammed the NCAA and power conferences over denied NIL deals, issue legal warning about settlement. In another twist, in college athletics, again, Ross Dellinger, new revenue share era. Attorneys for the plaintiffs in the House settlement believe the NCAA and the power conferences are violating terms of the legal agreement and are threatening to report the wrongdoing to the court. In a terse 2-page letter sent to NCAA and the power conference officials on Friday, Jeffrey Kelsler, a co-lead House plaintiff attorney, along with Steve Berman, requested that the NCAA and the conferences retract a statement of guidance released Thursday from the College Sports Commission and presumably reinstate NIL deals that the College Sports Commission has denied, many of them from booster-backed NIL collectives. In his letter, Kelsler describes the guidance as not consistent and undermining the settlement terms. According to a copy of the document Yahoo Sports obtained, the CSC, the new revenue share enforcement arm, Police and NIL deals notified schools on Thursday that it was denying dozens of NIL deals for not meeting what is termed a valid business purpose. The guidance specifically targeted collectives, entities for years now have paid millions to athletes through booster donations. In the letter, attorneys write that collectives should not be treated differently as other businesses. There is nothing in the settlement agreement to permit the NCAA and conference or the CSC acting on their behalf to decide that it would not be a valid business purpose for a school collective to engage in for-profit promotions of goods and services using paid-for-student athlete NIL, the letter reads. To the extent the NIL payment is for the promotion of a valid business purpose, it is irrelevant whether that payment comes from an NIL collective or any third party. So again, in one way, the House lawyers are saying, look, a student athlete can get a payment directly from the collective, but it has to be a promotion of a valid business purpose. Attorneys are planning to bring the issue before a judge, the appointed magistrate in the settlement, who has been appointed to resolve such disputes. There's going to be more disputes. And they're going to figure it out. They're going to iron it out. I see a lot of people throwing up their hands on X saying, oh, boy, this wasn't surprise. This was always going to happen. It's going to happen again. It's going to happen again. It's going to happen again until everybody knows exactly what the guardrails are when it comes to Deloitte, the Sports Commission, which is the enforcement arm, and everything in between. The lawyers, the House lawyers, we urge the CSC to retract the July CSC memorandum and clarify that the valid business purpose requirement applies to NIL collectives in the same manner as any other entity. So there it is. There it is. Breaking news, breaking news, breaking news. Replica. Retzlaff may be better off sitting out this year. I don't think he'll get a P4 opportunity unless somebody's starting quarterback gets injured in fall camp. My question is, can he sit out this year? I think he's only got this year. I might be wrong, but I think he's only got 1 year of eligibility left. Like when a player goes through, let's say a player gets redshirted. And then he as a freshman, he's redshirted. Then he goes in the portal. And then he joins the next team. And then you hear, oh, he's got 4 years to play 4 years. Or sometimes you see reports a guy has 3 years to play 2 years because he hasn't used his red shirt. Or his COVID season when that applied. I think Retzlaff only has this year. I could be wrong. But I think this is it. I don't think he can sit out a year. Let's take a look. He's already got Oh, I'm not going to be able to... He was a senior in 2024. This does not show all the years that he had played. Remember, he played a couple of years in junior college. And they're not going to show all of that. I don't know. He was considered a senior last year, but he had one more year of eligibility because of his junior college plan. I don't think he has any more years. I could be wrong. Could be wrong. Greg, you're correct. Retzlaff doesn't have any eligibility. He redshirted at BYU the 2023 season. I think this is it. Yeah, we covered that. Rod Nix. Upstart Florida State Health is collaborating with Proven, USF Health, Shands, Gainesville, and Miami. Absolutely. We covered that. We'll show it again. And by the way, you know, when I talked about how it's not just important about how much, you know, expenditures you do when it comes to your research, it's also important what type of research you do. The Big Ten Conference, genetics that is one of their preferred. That is what Miami has got. Like Miami is almost all genetic research. Like they're at the very top, along with Wisconsin, along with Miami. It's one of the reasons why we talked about how this is how Miami became an AAU university. Florida State getting in the game. The state of Florida supporting this. Again, Florida State, an emerging research university. This is very good news. This might tip the scales. I keep saying to everybody yells at me, but this is very important to the Big Ten presidents and their universities. Collaboration. Now people say, oh, the Big Ten schools don't collaborate. Yeah, they do. Yes, they do. In this instance, per the Sunshine Genetics Act, these schools are going to be collaborating. It happens all the time. So for the Big Ten universities, they want to bring in other universities under the Big Ten banner, under the branding and everything else that goes on with it, the collaboration with schools that can help them out with certain research. So this is a big deal. Does this mean that Florida State is going to become AAU? I don't know, but it's a step forward. It's a step in that direction. Does this mean that Florida State is going to become a Big Ten university? I don't know, but this State of Florida Act is making Florida State look more like a Big Ten university in the years ahead. Florida State, as much I get dragged over the coals because I've said what I've said, no doors are closed, but I've said what I said. Every back has got to get scratched when it comes to Big Ten expansion and the SEC. Florida State knows exactly what they need to do. They know exactly what they need to do. They do. They've been told, if you want to have an option for this, if you want to have an option for that, this is what you need to do. And you see Florida State doing what they need to do. And the best way to create the relationships that you need to give you best chance of going to higher ground, to build those relationships, this is how you do it. This is how you do it. Because at some point, and it may happen right off the bat, when USF, when Florida Gainesville, when Miami, and when Florida State Tallahassee are doing this genetic work, they're going to be interacting. They're going to be interacting with the Wisconsin, with the Michigan, with a Northwestern, with a Minnesota. That's how you do it. This is how it works. And for the state of Florida to recognize this, for these universities that are probably pushing for this to get passed and signed into a law, like I said on my Twitter account, this is a big deal. This is a big deal. And I know people are going to scoff. Greg, you don't know what the hell you're talking about. These conferences are just athletic conferences. Well, that may be true for a lot of the conferences. But for a few of them, there's more involved than just, kicking a soccer ball, hitting a baseball, and all that. So this is big news. And when this college football YouTube channel says it, well, you can take it out however you want it, but I would book it. This is the biggest news that I think this is going to help Miami as well. This is going to help Southern Florida, USF as well. I know they got the AAU already, but it's always about building, hoping to get the higher ground. This is really going to help Florida State. It's not just the amount of expenditures in research. It's about what you are doing. This, and I've said it, genetics is a huge, valuable part of the future. And the Big Ten universities, the biggest research universities, are all on this. And that's why they like Miami so much. And that's why they got them the AAU. And if Florida State is in collaboration, the whole state of Florida, on exactly this, it's a big deal for that university, Florida State University. Okay. Isn't the Big Ten going to have a problem that Miami is playing in a rented stadium and an hour from campus? Sure. But I got a feeling that can be solved. At some point, it will be solved. I mean, did the Big Ten like that my beloved Golden Gophers played at the Metrodome? The worst place on earth? That's what I used to call the Metrodome. The worst place on earth. The least authentic place to play a college football game that has ever been designed. It drove my beloved Minnesota Golden Gopher football program into the ground. And there it stayed for decades. The worst place on earth was the Hubert Humphrey Metrodome. God, it was bad. But, then the Big Ten did not like it. Neither did any of the Big Ten universities. They thought it was junk, and it was. Now the Gophers play in a stadium I never thought they would get, a magnificent stadium. Of course, they're in debt because of it, but besides the point, a beautiful stadium. That's what Miami's going to do. At some point, especially if they get a Big Ten invite, they're going to work on it. They're going to get it done. Northwestern, that football stadium, Ryan Field, the second worst place on earth to watch a college football game. Now look at what Northwestern is building. So the problem that Miami has can be solved. The problems that Miami have can be solved. The problems that Florida State has can be solved. Eventually. And that's probably the best memorandum you could possibly have with the Mayo Clinic in Rochester, Minnesota. University of Rochester, of course, is connected with the University of Minnesota, the Mayo Clinic. It's a big deal. I hope this is getting played up at Florida State YouTube channels. You know, when they're talking college football, when they're talking conference realignment, I hope they've recognized how important this is. And of course, you know, the fat guy from Minnesota is not a Johnny-come-lately on this. I've said the word genetics. This is exactly what the University of Miami, the University of Florida, Gainesville, and you've got 4 universities collaborating in the state of Florida, and the state of Florida is supporting you. This is exactly what Florida State needed, more than anything else, more than a football win, more than a 4 million viewership game. This means more to Florida State than any of those other items that everybody is consumed with when it comes to conference affiliation. This Florida State needed. And they knew it. That's another point. They know exactly what they need to do. And they're working towards it. One of the many reasons why I am not closing the door on any possibility at all. Way too many variables. Way too many variables. And nothing is imminent. So things can change, obviously. Okay. You know what? We're going to go ahead and open up the phone lines. I don't know. Anybody wants to call, yell at me about my optimism about Florida or Nebraska? Does anybody want to chew me out? Does anybody want to chew me out? Talk about the sports commission and the lawyers, the House lawyers. I got chewed out yesterday a few times. Will I get chewed out again today? Are you guys going to give me a pass? Are you guys going to give me a pass? Rock and rant. Nebraska is not coming back under Matt Rule. He has been cringe-worthy all off season. Everything he says, he's a little bit cringe. We're going to do a spotlight on Nebraska today or tomorrow. We read an article from The Athletic today on Nebraska. This is a big year for Matt Rule. Year 3, it's time. It's time to rise again. Now, I was on Rock and Rant show, college football express show. I was very fortunate for Rock and Rant to invite me on. The big game for Minnesota is Iowa. To me, that's the swing and gate game. To me, that is an indication. Can Minnesota win 9 games? Or are they going to win 7 or 8? That's my opinion. I don't think Nebraska is the swing and gate game. Minnesota is expected to beat Nebraska this year. Again. But for Nebraska, their swing and gate game is Minnesota. Nebraska has to beat Minnesota. It cannot lose to Minnesota again. Not again. That is the game we're going to see if Matt Rule can get this thing going. Because Nebraska is just, they got to, and by the way, everyone talks about how many close games Nebraska loses every year. They lose all these one-score games, right? Well, guess what? You should not be playing in all those close games. You shouldn't. You should not have lost to Georgia State by 3 points or whatever that was. Nebraska is in close games with everybody, with teams that they should not be close with, and they lose them. But they should not even be close That's the problem. Don't be in so many close games. Blow somebody out, for God's sakes. Now, they did blow Colorado out last year. But then they went right back into this thing where I do have issues. They lost their defensive coordinator. Tony White went to Florida State. But we're going to go through the Nebraska team this weekend.
From
Evil Badger, Ryan, Willie, the floor is yours. How are you doing, sir?
I'm doing okay, Greg. Thanks for taking my call. This has to do with what you and Rick were talking about last night, or yesterday.
Yeah.
I seen the rest of the show after later on that night, and sure, the players deserve their money, but if there is no money to give out to the players, then how are they going to get their money if the universities can't, bring in the donors and
Yep.
You got to first have the money to actually give the money to the players.
Yep.
And Rick just kind of said, well, he's all for the players right now. I'm for both. Because it's got to, the universities don't have the money, and the players don't want to get the money. And I'm afraid that the season ticket prices are going to go up because of it. Hello?
Yeah, I'm here.
And the prices for merch are going to go up just to cover the cost of the NIL and all that, and the rev share. I just don't. I don't get it why people think that the players deserve everything they get, which in a way they do, but it's got to work both ways,
Yep.
And as far as the Nebraska Cornhuskers go, I really can't stomach corn, so I don't like the Cornhuskers. And I hope that they don't rise again.
Yeah. Well, if they do,
So,
we're in trouble.
That's all I had.
We're in trouble, Badger, if they do. All right, man. Appreciate the call.
All right. Thank you.
You got it.
All right.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with Evil Badger. I think, I want, I was asked yesterday in a live show, who are you for, the players or the owners, Greg? Who are you for? Because you only can be for one. I want to be for both. I want the golden goose to keep putting out the eggs, and I want the players to keep getting paid more and more, and I want more opportunities, not just in football and basketball. I think this ain't amateurism anymore, but it can't quite be professional. Got to find that sweet middle. And I think during this settlement, it's going to take a while to figure out the guardrails. And if we go to a CBA, I hope to God it's not a Major League Baseball CBA. If that happens, it's going to be absolutely brutal. I'm hoping for like a NBA, a soft cap, first apron, second apron type of CBA. NBA CBA, I think, is where hopefully this is where it's going to go if we go to a CBA. NFL hard cap, but either way, in a CBA world, this inducement, this pay for play money's got to go away because it's not involved in any CBA world out there. Players are never going to get drafted. So that is something that the college student athlete has more power than a professional player. They're never going to get drafted. They're going to be able to select where they go. So they've already got more power in that bargaining agreement than a professional player. So again, it's got to be a balance. It's got to be a balance. One of the things that, there is not inducements allowed in the NFL. You sign that contract, that's the money you get. And then you have commercial for profit NIL deals. And if anybody's caught paying a player $400,000, $600,000 to sign with the team, they're in big trouble. It's against the rules. Look, people lectured me yesterday, more than one, and not just on this show, but on DMs. Greg, you got to let the players make as much as they possibly want. That's not reality. I want them to make as much as they possibly can, not as much as they want. Here's the deal, guys. There is structure all over the sports world because the product is competition. LeBron James has never made as much as he possibly could have in the NBA because of the CBA. To make sure that the franchises, the product, it's competitive, that people watch it. LeBron James, there's a max contracts in the NBA. Now, he's got a lot of beautiful commercial deals. He's a very rich man. He's going to be an owner, probably, of the future Las Vegas, whatever NBA expansion that's going to happen in Seattle and wherever. He's a very wealthy man. But his contract was limited in the NBA. Contracts are limited in the NFL. And they can't take inducement payments. What is wrong with that? There's nothing wrong with that. In a collective bargaining agreement. But again, a collective bargaining agreement among college is going to be way more complicated. The players are not going to be able to get drafted. And of course, you got Title IX. You've got non-revenue sports, revenue sports, and you've got differences in these conferences. How can any true labor representatives, how can the same ones represent the SEC football players and the Big 12 football players when the SEC football players have an opportunity to make more money under a rev share cap because the athletic departments of the SEC make more money per average than the Big 12? There's a lot of problems with all this. There's a lot of complications. But whatever happens, there needs to be two winners. Student athletes, or if you want to call them players, if you want to call them employees, whatever you want to call them. The players have to win and the ownership has to win. So I'm for both. And I got shredded yesterday because I said I was for both. I'm not going to be able to fulfill the extremists on either side of this issue. I'm sitting in the middle of the road, and that is where you get run over. I don't have my back up against the wall and taking an extremist position. I don't want this thing to go away. I don't want college football to go away. I don't want softball to go away. I don't want any of this to go away. It can't be treated like amateurism anymore. It can't be quite treated like completely professional, in my opinion. And if you do want to treat this like completely professional, if you do want that, if you want college football to be the minor leagues, if you want complete detachment from the universities, if you don't want these kids to go to school anymore, which is just an unbelievable bad idea for our society, for these students, for these players, for a lot of people. But if you all want that to happen for 18 to 21-year-olds, call Jay Bilas. Call all these rich guys and rich women, all these billionaires and millionaires that everybody gloms over. and tell them to create their 18 to 21-year-old football semi-professional league where you can have inducements, you can have anything you want, and try to make a buck on it, try to stay alive, try to stay afloat, and try to keep the opportunities of those young men who are playing football. Good luck. It's going to drop like a rock. It ain't going to work. So again, you need both sides to win. Both sides, in my opinion. Greg, you need to be for a P2 breakaway. I'm not for a P2 breakaway. I'm not for a P2 breakaway. Although I think there's a chance it could happen in 2030, 31. I've said that a million times, but I'm not for a break. I love college football. I love watching. I love watching the Mountain West Conference last year. I love watching UNLV and Boise State at the end of the season. Who was going to be the representative into the playoffs? I love Big 12 football. I know Big 12 football doesn't like the Big 10. I get it. All you Big 12 fans, you can't stand the Big 10. We all suck, except for 3 teams. But I love the Big 12 football. I love watching ACC. I do, and it's not just Miami, North Carolina, and Florida State, and Clemson. I watched Boston College last year. I watched Georgia Tech last year. I watched Fran Brown win 10 games in Syracuse, New York. All these were great storylines. I don't want no breakaway. I don't want no breakaway. I don't want it. But it could happen. It could happen. Greg, anyone who loves college football as much as you should want to see better, bigger matchups each and every week. Okay, fine. Let's have bigger matchups. To have bigger matchups, you're going to have automatic qualifiers. You can't have this stupid 5+11. If you want bigger matchups, tell the SEC to play 9 conference games and have a crossover game with the Big Ten teams. Bring it on. People talking about they want... We don't need to have a breakaway to have bigger matchups. We don't need that. Big 12 and ACC would play more often if they had automatic qualifying. We would have bigger matchups, but we don't even want to do that. We just want to avoid the losses.
Call from
William.
William, thanks for calling. I do appreciate it. The floor is yours.
Hey, Greg, I didn't get a chance to hear you rant for the first hour. I actually just got in, but I wanted to comment on some of the things that have been spoken the past few days. I know yesterday there was a comment about, hey, none of the football players should be subsidizing any of their peer athletes. And one of the things that I would say, I would agree with you, that the money that gets made is because of the football players. But to your point, it's because of the schools. And the money, let's just say it's a 50-50 split that's allotted to the schools. If they want to use their piece of the pie to help fund their other athletics and help the other athletes, that's what they should do it for. And I totally agree. This idea that all the money should be pouring to football, it's not worthwhile. To your point, without the school,
Yep.
I wouldn't want to watch any of these football teams. I barely watch the NFL.
Exactly.
I like college football. I like knowing that I'm going to play Ohio State, even if I'm going to get my ears beaten. I want to know that I'll get a chance to play some of my old Big East teams. And yeah, hey, I wish I could go back to the Power Six and have what we used to have, but we have what we have right now. And finally, players are getting paid as they should be.
Yeah.
And if the schools, they can use their money for whatever they want. So that was one piece that I wanted to comment on. Is not 100% the football players' money. That isn't the case. But they're finally getting paid, which is great. The other thing I would say is I think it was like either Monday or late last week about this idea that everybody hates the Big Ten, or that the Big Ten media contract, that the Big Ten is not fulfilling their piece of the contract because their ratings aren't as high as the SEC's. Well, one of the things that I heard, I know you don't like to bring up names, so I won't, but one of the comments that was made is that the Big Ten contract, they're getting paid too much. And the fact of the matter is, it isn't that the Big Ten is getting paid too much, is that just like the ESPN is paying the ACC too little, the SEC did not get any credit for Texas and Oklahoma. They got zero bump from the contract. Even when they renegotiated the SEC Game of the Week, that was before Texas and Oklahoma even came in. And what did Texas and Oklahoma got? They got pro rata, which is why ESPN is willing to give pro rata for any 2 teams and maybe any 4 teams with the right blend, because ESPN knows that whatever they're paying the SEC is so undervalued that they can give that money. On the other hand, because CBS and Fox and NBC are arguably paying the Big Ten what is worth, you can't just randomly bring in any team and say, hey, we're going to give them $70 million. It just doesn't work that way. But because the SEC is so big, bad, and powerful, nobody wants to say ESPN has them by the same way that ESPN has the ACC. So it's easier to hate the Big Ten, who is getting that money. It's easier to come and say, well, the Big Ten destroyed the Pac-12, but the same people don't like to say, they hesitate to say that the SEC destroyed the Big 12. Like, I hear a lot of the commentators from many YouTubers that I like to listen to, and they're quick to get on the Big Ten's case. But to your point, they always hesitate to call out the SEC because it's as if in the back of their mind, well, if my conference dies, I hope the SEC destroys the Big Ten. And there's probably a lot of reasons for that Movie Time Blues brought up. But that was just another piece of the pie that I just wanted to bring up just because, it isn't that CBS and NBC are overpaying, is that ESPN is probably paying 70% of what they should be paying, and SEC can't do anything because their contract goes up to 2034 unless they get a renegotiation or get a couple of teams or get that 9th conference game. Just my 3 or 4 cents right there.
All right, man. I appreciate the call, sir. Beautiful call.
Thank you, Greg.
Yeah. Great call, William. Please call again, William. Couple things I want to make a comment on. I think people overall, not everybody, people overall, and I'm not saying William is, but a lot of people, probably even in SEC country, are undervaluing the current SEC media deal. It is true that Oklahoma and Texas came on board after the new SEC media deal in which tier one package went from CBS to ESPN. And there was a bump, but people have not seen the evidence yet of the massive Southeastern Conference media deal. You are going to see that next year when in the spring of 2026, the conference payout numbers come out, the athletic departments of the SEC money comes out. It happened this year, but it doesn't get reported until next year. It was a, I don't need to go down that rabbit hole. But next year, next spring, people are going to be, whoa! Boy, look at that jump that the Southeastern Conference schools made in revenue. So that's going to happen. And when it comes to the next media revenue deal, the SEC is going to be just fine. Just fine. And of course, you know what? I forgot to bring this up. I got to get to another point here. Number two, William knocked it out of the park when he talked about how, football pays, the revenue of football pays the freight for a non-revenue sports in your athletic department. And some people do not like that. Some people believe you're taking money away from the college football players. And in some ways, they're correct. But William brings up an excellent point, one that I have failed to bring up recently. I used to bring this up all the time. But the football is being subsidized as well. College football is being subsidized like crazy. That is the 100% truth. In a couple of different ways. I mean, not all their compensation is taxable. The scholarship, number one. The football programs, because the team is attached to the university, boost up the value immensely. Because the athletic department has other sports, because it's the front porch of the university, because of the brand of the university, because of the brand of Michigan football is incredibly valuable. But if you took it off the university and you called them the Michigan Fishermen as a semi-pro league, it would, come on, guys. It would not be anywhere near the value. And the football players would not be getting paid as nearly as much. Now, before I get yelled at once again from everybody, there's also the other way, where the football players, the young men who at a very young age has been working their craft, practicing, working hard, lifting weights, building up this skill level mentally, emotionally, physically, the great talent, the great people out there playing high school football, they go to college. Yes, these universities owe them a debt of gratitude because we're not watching Michigan researchers. We're not watching Florida researchers. We're watching football players. So they deserve the money. So again, it's a lot of both. It's a lot of both. But again, try starting a semi-pro football, a professional football league for 18 to 21 year olds without the attachment of these universities. You're going to go bankrupt. Steel Austin, Illini Ted, Go Black 45, Morris Simmons, Rod. All of you put your money together. All of you are very wealthy Einsteins in the PATC. Put all your money together and invest in it. And you're going to lose your shirt. So yeah, Yeah, football is subsidizing these other sports. The schools are subsidizing football and basketball in many ways. I forgot to get something here. Ryan Willie, state legislators across the country will need to help some programs survive. They don't want to see the student population dwindle. Taxes will rise. Thank you once again for your super chat, Ryan Willie. I do appreciate it so very much. One other thing, and shame on me, I forgot. Hold on, everybody. Hold on a second. I need a timeout. We got breaking news. We've got breaking news. Breaking news. We've got breaking news. Thank you, Ryan Willie, for your super chat. The Sun Belt CEOs plan to meet on Monday and hold a vote to invite Louisiana Tech to the league. Sources confirmed to ESPN. Tech has been the favorite to be added to the league, and there's continued momentum for the addition. Daily News Record Sports first reported the meeting. Louisiana Tech joining the Sun Belt after Texas State goes out to the Pac-12. Holy smokes. Pete Thamel. It would require a supermajority of 10 of the 13 Sun Belt schools to vote yes. There's long been support by the Sun Belt's Western schools which favor Louisiana Tech for geographic purposes. It's happening. It looks like it's going to happen. Louisiana Tech joining the Sun Belt Conference after losing Texas State to the Pac-12. Now, breaking news. I got to get to something else here. We cover everything in college football because we love everything in college football. This is a post I put up yesterday. Remember, for the last 6 weeks, I've had shows talking about the possibility of private equity. Not just a possibility, a growing possibility. Maybe not this year, maybe not next year, maybe not the year after, but it is coming in. It may not be exactly in private equity form, maybe private capital, but some third-party new partnerships for the conferences to push their brand internationally, globally. Remember, we had a couple of big live shows on it. It is why, partially, a big reason why the Southeastern Conference is talking to Goldman Sachs. It is partially a big reason why the Big Ten had 4 private equity firms have presentations at the Big Ten spring meetings to show them what they can do for the Big Ten Conference. Is to push the international to get into other markets. We had long conversations here at Peek Around the Corner about how, look at the game in Dublin, Ireland. Look what's going to happen with Iowa State and Kansas State. Look at the interest. Look at the money. Look at the commercial, sponsorship, signage, all that money coming on in. Look what NFL has done with Europe. Look what the Premier League has done here in America. I gave you all the peek around the corner. The peek around the corner. That this is what is brewing. Yesterday, Front Office Sports. I'll put it up here. As CFB, PATC, Peek Around the Corner, has been discussing for the last 6 weeks, New Frontiers will also be bringing on new partnerships for the A4 conferences. New borders. This is from Front Office Sports. What else could be on the way outside the U.S.? We're having conversations with other countries throughout the world that are interested in bringing the Big 12 to their marketplace. Your mark set. International expansion appears to be an area of growth that many college sports are interested in exploring further, as professional leagues like the NFL, the NBA, the MLB, the NHL have found great success in recent years taking their products abroad. Now, it is true that we had reports last year and the year before that Your Mark wants to have some live sport competition in Mexico and other places. But this is different. This is different. This is about pushing the Big 12, the SEC, the Big 10, pushing the brand internationally to create new markets, to consume your live sport content, and to do so, and to do it effectively, and to do it in a big, big way. The Big Ten is looking at creating a new partnership. The Southeastern Conference is looking at bringing on a new partnership. The Big 12, the ACC. It's not just about having one game somewhere internationally. It's about pushing your brand. Getting a partner that not only has cash, but has a lot of connections internationally. Global media brings on global markets. And that is what Tony Petitti is working on. That is what Greg Sankey has started to explore. When we said, when it came out that Brett Yormark hit the pause button on that private equity, people took it like, oh, none of this is going to happen. No. No. It is going to happen. Now, is it going to come in strictly in a private equity where you give up part of your equity in the conference to this partner? I don't know. Maybe it doesn't have any. Maybe that it's not going to be the result of it. But maybe it is. I mean, according to Ross Dillinger's report on Yahoo Sports, when the 4 private equity firms came in to present their offers to the Big Ten, that had to do with Big Ten Incorporated giving a certain percentage away to those private equities. So it could involve straight private equity, or maybe it won't. Or maybe it's going to be different throughout all the conferences. But the point is, major new partnerships are coming on board in the Big Ten, the SEC, the Big 12, and the ACC. And money's going to be involved in that. Partnership, expertise, international, global markets, media companies are going to be a part of all this. Major streaming companies are going to be a part of all this. We brought it up about 6 weeks ago. We gave you the peek around the corner, and now it's being reported in other places. It's happening. It's happening. Okay. Let me get to your comments here. I guess Louisiana Tech makes the most sense for the Sun Belt, but 3 Louisiana Conference teams is oversaturated. They're looking at rivals. They're looking at short travel, especially out west for the Sun Belt. Yeah, they're not looking at like markets. They have a different economic model there. Illini, Ted, you're correct in one way, but they're not looking at it that way. People overseas do watch college football. Well, you can sure, but the numbers probably aren't all that great. But they're gonna get. Let's put it this way: in the next 10 years, the access to be able to watch college football in Europe is going to grow tremendously. You know, in Mexico, I got my wife's family in Mexico, right? They don't have access to a lot of sports here. I got a brother-in-law, Isaac. He loves sports. He lived in America for a while. He went back home. He married his loved one. They're living in Mexico. He's always asking me how the Timberwolves are doing. They don't have this access. They don't have they can't watch Big 12. They can't watch the NFL unless it's the Super Bowl. Honestly, they don't have the access. There's way for them to get like a VPN number and all that, but they don't have like, so in Europe, they just don't have the access to but you know, if some of this stuff gets on Amazon Prime India, for example, there's an Amazon Prime India, get on a Netflix, the access is going to grow for those markets. And the SEC, the Big 10, ACC, and the Big 12 are looking to add a partner. You know, I keep thinking about James Madison this year. Bob Chesney, the head coach. They lost all that talent last year when Coach Cignetti brought all those transfers to Indiana. And James Madison still won, I think, 9 games last year in the Sun Belt. They still had a very good year last year. Something to keep an eye on. Maybe James Madison maybe they contend for that college football playoff spot. Dale Donuts, my Huskers sent out an email to boosters last year. Cash is bad. We are another Rutgers, Maryland, Purdue, Minnesota. You know, what eventually happens, first of all, the Big Ten athletic departments have so many more sponsored sports. So they have a lot of obligations, and they don't want to cut any of them. And another thing is, there is a donors fatigue out there. Yeah, there's stories, there's a billionaire here and a billionaire there. They're spending their money, whatever. But if you go through the long history of boosters, and I would know because BTM and his associates, they helped me broke many stories throughout the years. There are people on the money perch. There is not a consistent giving of money to these athletic departments. It comes in waves, ebbs and flows. It happens everywhere. In Oregon, everywhere. I mean, it's just the way it is. You don't get any return on investment other than seeing your team have a better chance of winning. And Nebraska has put a lot of money into the football program, and they haven't gotten the ROI on it. So, but once Nebraska starts winning again, they're going to get money flowing through, right? But, Nebraska still has a lot more money than Minnesota. Minnesota has a budget deficit, which is unusual. Minnesota always has a balanced budget. They always spend as much as they possibly can because they got debt payments on the stadium and other things like most universities do. But Minnesota came in with like an almost $8 million deficit this year. 164 revenue and 173 spending. Because of the rev share. They're going to take care of that. There's a bunch of articles out there. You can read it. So yeah, and I have not made it a secret. A lot of athletic departments are really battling this rev share, and it's going to get a little bit worse next year, and a little bit worse the next. There's going to be more money that you're going to have to pay if you want to pay maximum rev share. Another reason why these conferences are looking at other means. 5 sports are on the cutting block at Nebraska. Well, Minnesota, we cut a couple sports a couple years ago. Nebraska makes way more money than Minnesota as well. Yeah, it's tough. You're not the only You're not the only one out there. It's tough. It is tough. It's tough out there, guys. It's tough. The rev share, which needed to happen, the stories really haven't. I mean, wait until next year. After we get through this first year, the stories coming out next year are like, boy, we gotta. That's why they're having all these discussions with private capital, private equity. That's why these conferences wanted play-in games. That's why they want to expand the college football playoffs for more playoff money. This rev share has really, really, really put a dent. Ryan Brooks, it was going to be Western Kentucky or Louisiana Tech. I'm okay with Louisiana Tech. Ryan Brooks, LSU Tiger, showing some support for Louisiana Tech. D5 Terps, Louisiana Tech used to be a dynasty in women's basketball. Alrighty, guys, I think we're going to close it up. We've been on the air for almost 2 hours. Almost 2 hours. Let me make sure I haven't missed anything. One person has donated to our program today, Ryan Willie. Thank you, Ryan Willie, for your generosity. I do so much appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you for the phone call, William. I do appreciate it. We've had a very long show today, and we talked about Florida and Nebraska. We are going to have a spotlight on Nebraska this weekend. I do believe they are going to win 8 games this year, possibly 9. Am I foolish? Am I being sucked into the Nebraska Cornhusker vortex? I love Dylan Raiola. And I'm not Greg the Cold this year. I'm not Greg the Cold. I'm Greg the Gold. So Nebraska should be feeling optimistic. And then we went through the Florida Gators spotlight, DJ Legway. He had a very good year as a freshman, just like Dylan Raiola. He's going to be better next year. Jaden Baugh, the sophomore running back, I think he's going to explode this year. The senior, Jacoby Jackson, RB2, I love that duo. Eugene Wilson, get back from that hip injury. And then Tyreek Sapp, man, he had a great year last year. Very productive. Florida's got a lot of guys. They've got a brutal schedule. We went through that today on our live show. So we did the spotlight. We talked about Nebraska. We've talked about everything in college football. Jake Retzlaff, where is he going to end up? He is definitely officially leaving BYU. What school is Jake Retzlaff going to? And then we covered the big news. Florida, the state of Florida, collaboration between the Florida State Seminoles, Miami Hurricanes, USF Bulls, and Florida Gainesville. Collaboration, the Sunshine Genetics Act, establishes Florida Institute for pediatric rare diseases at Florida State universities, where researchers will develop advanced technologies for precision diagnostics and therapies for children affected by rare genetic diseases. Number one, and most importantly, that is good news for people that are afflicted with all these horrific issues, health problems, our children, rare genetic diseases. More research is needed. Collaboration in the state of Florida. Very good news for the Florida State University and University of South Florida and University of Miami and Florida Gainesville. Especially for Florida State University. This is what was needed. An emerging research university that's going to be supported by the state of Florida in the field that the Big Ten universities, such as Michigan, such as Wisconsin, such as Minnesota, such as Northwestern, truly do value. That important voting block in the Big Ten. That is big news for Florida State. I want to thank everybody for joining us. I want to thank everybody for your comments. I do appreciate it. If you're new to the channel or if you haven't done it yet, please subscribe to our channel. Open up those notifications. Share the video with your family and friends. You've got to turn on those notifications because we can come on live at any time. Any breaking news, we're going to cover it here at Peek Around the Corner. Thank you so much for joining us. I do appreciate it. Very humbled that you would take any time out of a Friday during the summer to watch the fat guy from Minnesota talk about college football. Until next time, from all of us at PATC to all of you, please you all take great care of each other. Thank you so very much.